Hello everyone, you're all very welcome to this EAPC webinar. We're delighted to see so many people joining us today. We will just give a few seconds to enable everyone to join us, and while we do that, I just have a few housekeeping things to go through. So the webinar will start very soon. If you are familiar with Teams, you'll know that you can use the three dots at the bottom of your screen, and then you can increase the size of the font on the slides, and you might be able to translate them into your own language. The webinar is being recorded and it will be available to people who've attended today, but also if people registered and can't attend, it will be in our website. And as a participant in our webinars, we can't see you and we can't hear you, but we do encourage you to ask questions and to engage with our presenter today. And please do that using the chat box. So we'd like you to have a go at that now and tell us where in the world you're joining us from. There will be a certificate of attendance for everyone who's on the live webinar today, and towards the end of the webinar we will put the link where you can click and complete an evaluation form and download your certificate. You just need to put your own name on once you've downloaded it. So I think all that remains for me to say is that I hope you enjoy the webinar. This is the second time we've done this. Abstract reviewing is a really important part of the work that goes into our Congress, and we're delighted to have Catherine Walshe to support us with this webinar today. I'm also joined by some members of my team. So I have Anna, Guillermo, Juliana and Dre. They're in the background, but I know we're 5 minutes in, so I'm going to hand over straight over to Catherine. Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you very much, Joanne, and thank you very much for inviting me again to give this webinar. So just while the slides hopefully will appear for you in a moment, because I've just started sharing those, I'm going to be talking to you today about writing abstracts and reviewing abstracts. Now, the main purpose of the talk today is about reviewing abstracts, and we're thinking about the EAPC Congress in 2026, which will be upon us before we know it. But the way that I've structured the talk today focuses both on writing and reviewing, because they're two extremely complementary skills. And I think if I go through the sorts of things that we might want to look at in terms of how we structure an abstract when we write it, I hope that that's going to enable you to review the abstracts more effectively. So I'm going to be talking for about 20 minutes or so, and then I know there's some other slides very specifically about the reviewing process within the EAPC. So I just want to think about related to writing an abstract, because you know, many of you here will want to review abstracts, but you'll also be writing them as well, and you want to get that abstract accepted. And understanding the skills of constructing a great abstract, as I've already said, very similar to understanding how to review an abstract, so that you will be that person in front of the EAPC in Prague in 2026, sharing your work. And for those of us who are in the audience, our review process has gone well, so that what we're hearing is great work presented really well. So in a sense, we need to start at the very beginning. So your great abstract, or the great abstract that you will review, starts with great research. And so I just want to emphasize that before we go on to really thinking about abstracts, because if you don't have a great research question, if you haven't addressed that with an appropriate research design, you've collected appropriate relevant data and analyzed it really well, you are not going to get your oral presentation that you are looking for. And again, the skill in reviewing an abstract is taking what is often a relatively small amount of information, the abstracts are only 300 words, and unpicking and understanding whether it is great research or, for some of the abstracts, whether it is strong evaluation. And again, some of our abstracts at the EAPC are not research abstracts, they are abstracts of other work, often evaluation. And again, you've got to be able to see and unpick whether that is great work that has been planned into assessing the impact of some new intervention or a new service or whatever it is you're talking about. So having set that scene, an abstract, when you read it as a reviewer or write it as an author, should have a really strong, what I've called here, the golden thread. So your golden thread in a short abstract, 300 words, every single word has to count, and they all have to contribute to what I've called here your golden thread, which has a strong narrative, which, as I put there in brackets, might be a single narrative. Because if you try and cram too much into an abstract, it's very confusing for the reviewer. And when you start reviewing these abstracts, you'll soon see if somebody's tried to put too many messages into an abstract, it's actually really difficult to appraise and to understand. So have that strong narrative. You're looking for a clear purpose, a straightforward message, and relevant and related conclusions. And to just emphasize, that discussion or conclusion section is really where you are actually making a conclusion about the work that you are presenting, rather than representing or summarizing findings, which is what you often see. I'm also going to talk briefly about what you should avoid. And these are my multiple threads with something else thrown in as well. So if you have many messages within the abstract, or there's a clear disconnect between what you've put in the background, what you put in the aim, how you've done the work and what you found, or the conclusions seem unrelated to what's being presented, I can tell you now as a reviewer that is extremely challenging to unpick and to understand. And I think sometimes we do that because we're presenting an abstract based perhaps on a much larger project, and we put in the background for the larger project, but we're presenting perhaps a particular theme or something, and actually there's a real disconnect between that. And so certainly thinking about when I was scoring the abstracts last year, some of those were not well scored. So, you know, it's really important as well to expose your writing to other people so that they can really understand and give you feedback on what you're writing. So let's go through now the abstract section by section, thinking both about what you might be looking for as a reviewer, but also what you might be writing as an abstract writer. So first of all, let's think about titles. It is your shop front. It is the first thing that a reader or a reviewer sees, and it automatically cues them in to what the abstract is about. And certainly the abstract title is the first thing you will see as an abstract reviewer. So the way that the system is designed is you'll see a list, and you'll see the list of titles. So you're already starting to make some judgment as a reviewer before you've even read the abstract itself. You are looking at the title and thinking, oh, that looks interesting, or actually I'm not sure what that's about, or whatever your first impressions are. So make those first impressions count. So it should be clear and unambiguous. Put in some of those key words that are going to cue the reader in to what the abstract is about. And it's surprising sometimes how some abstract titles don't really tell you much about what the abstract content is focused on. If it's a research abstract, you probably want to put some design information in, because again, that cues in the reader. So if I call it a randomized controlled trial as part of the title, you get a clear clue as to what it is. Or if I talk about a grounded theory study, it'll tell you something about that. So do include, if you can, the design information, because again, that is going to help the reader to much more quickly get to the point of your abstract, and as a reviewer will help you to understand the purpose of it. As a writer, I would probably tell you to avoid country names. You can put the country in the abstract itself, in the information about the setting, but it can be very off-putting as a reviewer or as a reader to think, oh, actually, is this relevant to the work that I'm doing, because it's based in a country which is very different to me. So, you know, you're not going to make your work look transferable, but you need to put the effort in then to the abstract to obviously help people to understand how and why your work might be transferable. So in terms of the background, we're essentially looking for a very brief presentation on what we know, what don't we know, and why do we want to know it. And so you need to work quite hard to put that information in. But as a reviewer, I will be reviewing abstracts that are not exactly in our sphere of interest. And that's not a problem, because we're looking for clear, well-articulated abstracts, not necessarily that all the reviewers are absolutely the expert in the minutiae of that work, although obviously we do try very hard to map that up. But a clearly written abstract that clearly states what we know and what we don't know will clearly make a case for why this work needs to be done. So you're already starting to position it to be scored highly in terms of the contribution to knowledge and the novelty of the work that is being presented. So as an author, you have to put that work in. You have to make it really clear. And it's very common in an abstract actually for somebody to more likely write about why it's an important problem or some policy imperative. And actually the reader sometimes, that is not helpful to a reader, because it doesn't tell them how this work fits in what we know and what we understand. So here's an example based on this example stripped through with some fictional examples. So in terms of what we know, I've written here, people with advanced COPD are frequently admitted to hospital. What don't we know? We might not understand how to reduce avoidable admissions. And why do we want to know it? Because actually they want to stay at home, as it is less burdensome and costly. So clearly the words in white don't go in the abstract, but when you're writing the words in the orangey colour, then this is the sort of information that you should be transmitting, so that then the reviewers can actually look at it and go, oh gosh, we really do need to understand that. That is a gap in knowledge. Something that adds to that would be worthwhile. So then we go on to the methods. Now, for an EAPC abstract, you will literally just get please tell us the aim, please tell us the methods, and a big blank space. So you have to do the work of thinking about the information that goes into the methods. So the other you, because basically most of us like me will be both writing abstracts and reviewing abstracts, are able to see the detailed information that the reviewers will need to understand the abstract. And the methods for a research abstract are really important, because we'll look at the scoring rubric in a moment, but you'll see on the scoring rubric that methods are prioritized in the scoring rubric, because essentially we want to ensure that the research that is presented at the conference is as robust as it can be. And the best way of doing that for an abstract is putting in sufficient information so that the reviewers can understand what's happened. So here are two examples, just carrying on with my example of COPD. Again, the words in white will obviously not be there. What you're writing is the words in yellow, but I've associated it with each of those headings that are internalized so that you can see how you can actually cover some of that in one sentence. So in my first sentence of this fictional abstract, I have covered off both design, population, and setting. So a randomized controlled trial with people with advanced COPD in acute hospitals. It's a single sentence, but it covers off all of that information. And you can see if you continue to read that actually it still then has that information about sampling, recruitment, data collection, data analysis, etc. So again, it's using relatively few words, but ticking off that information. And certainly when you are reviewing an abstract, sometimes it's helpful to have that sort of, sometimes I'll write it out and go, have they told me how they've designed the study? Have they told me who's part of the study? Have they told me where the study is being conducted? Because as a writer, it's very easy sometimes when you just have a blank box to forget to put some of that information in. And the more of that information you can put in the abstract, the more likely it is to be scored highly by the other you as a reviewer and hence be accepted for the Congress. So again, here's my example for my fictional grounded theory study. Again, putting in that information, but trying to, put it several pieces of information within a single sentence so that you cover off all of that information. Of course, the thing that the readers are likely to be more interested in is the actual results. What have you actually found? Because you need to convince me as a reviewer that there is a purpose to doing this work. You need to reassure me that it has been done in a robust fashion. But then I know that the viewers of your oral abstract or your paper or your poster will be most interested in the results because they are assured that the process of understanding this is robust, great research has been done as well as we possibly can do. So again, think about that key information that you want to see in the results. I do want to know how many people took part. I do want to understand something about who they were. I want something about the main findings with some specificity, and it's surprising how many abstracts that you will read as a reviewer that just says, I identified 3 main themes, but I still don't know what those main themes are. So you do need to work to put in sufficient information so that reviewers can actually understand what was found. So again, here, this is obviously highly fictional. I have told you something about the people with COPD, and here you've got an understanding that there were nearly 250 people taking part, split between intervention and control, because it's a trial. So you know that there will be both an intervention and a control arm to this trial, because I've already told you in the methods. I tell you something about those participants in terms of their gender and their age, because it seems important for this study. You will have to choose what the important characteristics are, because you will not be able to report all of those characteristics in a single abstract. And then you need to give some data here. There's an assumption that rates of readmission were particularly important in this study. So again, you need to really flag those highlights. And here's my fictional grounded theory study, obviously with fewer participants, but again, still some information about who took part. And some information about what those key main theoretical findings in this instance was in terms of the theory that was developed, so that you're giving things a name, but also, and here brackets can be your friends, you are describing what that is, because the naive reader or reviewer will not understand, likely just from the name of the element. So again, it's about the practice of putting as much detail as possible very succinctly in a very elegant manner, so that the reviewers can understand precisely what was found and then can understand what you have concluded from that. And here I've put, it should be an actual conclusion. It's not a summary or a restatement of the findings. It probably only needs to be 1 or 2 sentences, and it should clearly be based on the impact of the given results. So again, it is really important. So let's just go on now to be a little bit more focused on actual reviewing. So you will look at them with this knowledge about abstracts in mind. So just to remind everybody, as if you didn't need reminding, that the abstracts are due on the 31st of October. And then for the abstract reviewers, they will be coming out to you shortly after that. So, and we can share the timelines for that. So, and I put the QR code there so that you can go and have a look at it. I know they're going into that in a little bit more depth and detail, but just a reminder that when you're submitting it, you'll be asked to allocate it to a thematic track, which are relatively broad. And there are also some methodological thematic tracks. And also what you will see when you submit it will be what I put there on the left-hand side, which is clarifying that, this is the final submission, that it's factually correct, that it's written in English. They are asking you this year to flag if it is about assisted dying, but it may well be that people fill that in incorrectly. So as a reviewer, I think you're going to be asked to identify whether that's the topic of the abstract or not, and that it is original unpublished work. So you'll be asserting all of that. But one of the key things about reviewers is, sometimes we get it wrong when we submit things, we click the wrong box or, whatever. So one of the things about reviewing is actually saying, is that right? And that, you can sort of say, well, I know this is in the communications theme, but actually it's about bereavement. So you can make some of that commentary. So when we actually go into reviewing, each abstract is scored multiple times. And so ideally, we're looking for at least 3 reviewers and hopefully more if we have plenty of reviews come forwards. But because of the very large number of reviewers that we'll be working with, each reviewer perhaps only reviews 10 or 15 abstracts. So it's not actually onerous. I actually quite enjoy reviewing the abstracts. It doesn't take a huge amount of time because you are not allocated loads of them to review. And you actually learn a huge amount about reviewing from the action of doing the reviewing. And remember that your fellow reviewers come from a range of countries, a range of backgrounds, a range of experiences. So I'll always say to those who are writing the abstracts as well, imagine this is going to be read by, a nurse in the Czech Republic, a doctor in the Netherlands, a researcher in Hungary. You have to write it for those people, but also you are reading it thinking, what would that audience make of this abstract which sits in front of me? So as I've already said, the aim is to choose the highest quality abstracts which are robust and original so that the scientific committee can create a balanced programme to meet a range of attendee needs. And to remember that when you are reading the abstracts, you might be a researcher, but the audience could be clinical or vice versa. So, try and look at it from the breadth of people who we know come to the EAPC congresses. We don't give priority to any type of abstract. A great abstract is what we're looking for, whether it is qualitative, quantitative, mixed methods, a review, non-empirical work. Each should be evaluated on its own merits, and that's really important for you as a reviewer as well. You know, a randomized controlled trial done well should not score any higher or any lower than a really well done qualitative study. Theoretically, they should both score exactly the same if they are equally good abstracts. There is no prioritization whatsoever. So remember that as well when you are reviewing. So you'll be asked to score each of the abstracts that you are looking at, and we have provided a scoring rubric for you to look at. So the rubric will not, you know, you're not scoring individually against each of these, you will be giving a composite score, but we do encourage you, as you're getting a feel for this, to download and look at the rubric. And the rubric is available on the website now for anyone to look at. So if you're submitting an abstract, you might want to have a look at this as well, because it will tell you what the reviewers will be scoring it about. So again, it's very much the sorts of things that we have just spoken about. You know, is the need for the study well described? What we know, what we don't know, what we don't know, what we need to know. Does it have a clear purpose? So is it really clear what the purpose of this research is, what its aim or objective potentially is? And you can see there that the scoring numbers are not just 1, 2, 3, 4. There is some weighting towards the clarity of the purpose, but also, as I've ringed here, oh, that is the ringing of the clarity of the purpose, but also in terms of the choice of research as well. So again, you're not asked to put in these individual scores in the system, but bear this in mind. We want to weight, as it is, your score as a reviewer to ensure that it is the most robust research that gets selected for the conference. So, you know, what we're really looking for is a clear design, highly relevant to answering the question posed, no ambiguities in the approach described. So think about that both while you are writing it, but also when you are reviewing it, so that your scoring takes account of that. Because we could have some really highly relevant work, but it's not great research. And, you know, we all know from going to multiple conferences over the years that people get very irritated by that, because actually, you know, you can't have trust in the results that are being presented if you suspect or are concerned that it is not being executed in the most robust way using the best possible design. And then finally, the scoring system asks you to look at the originality, about how relevant it is to conference theme and to palliative care. Obviously, both of those are very related to palliative care, and about the clarity of the presentation. Is this easy to understand? And that's why when you're writing your own abstracts, we really encourage you to share those with a range of people so that they can say. And again, you know, I'm writing abstracts at the moment for the EAPC, and sometimes I think it's very clear, ordered, concise, with no ambiguities, but the readers don't see that because they're not inside my head. So do make the effort to share it with people and to have a look at that. So I'm just going to finish off with just a plea for those of you who have not already done so to become an abstract reviewer for EAPC 2026. The form is on the website. That's the QR code that will take you through there. And the more reviewers we have, the more robust the system will be, because each abstract will be reviewed by more people, which will create a more robust aggregate score and will allow the scientific committee to have you know, a lot of trust in those scores that are coming through. It is not foolproof, but the more people that engage in it, the better, and the more people will be contributing to your Congress. Everyone, I should imagine, that is attending today could be an abstract reviewer. Whether you work clinically, you're a PhD or a master's student, or you're an extremely experienced researcher, you know, you will be able to contribute to this and to be part of creating what I think we all hope is going to be a fantastic Congress in Prague in 2026. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. I'm going to come in there and introduce Juliana from our team, because Juliana is going to introduce Anna, our next speaker, and then Juliana will take care of question and answers after we've heard Anna.
Hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Juliana. I'm the operations manager of EAPC, and I'm gladly introducing Anna Ivanchenko, our colleague, who is the most experienced person to go to with respect to the Congress organizing and managing the abstract app and abstract submission platform. So Anna is going to guide you through the Exordo application, where you will be reviewing your abstracts in, and the floor is yours, Anna.
Hello, my name is Anna Ivanchenko, and as Juliana said, I'm EAPC Congress coordinator. Some of you probably know me already, and I'll be in touch with you through all the review process and maybe some other as well. I'll give you just a very brief introduction into the Exordo platform, most important steps you need to do. First of all, you'll receive an email from Exordo. If you don't, check your spam or junk folder, because sometimes this is what happens. When you see the full email, in the end of it, you will see two links. One would be to accept, another one would be to decline. Please choose one of them, otherwise you will be continue receiving notification reminders from Exordo. You will also receive instructions for the EAPC abstract reviewers from EAPC that probably would come from my email address. When you click accept, you'll be taken to the Exordo dashboard. If you have submitted an abstract, it will appear here as shown in my example. You'll see the submitter card and the reviewer card, and also you'll see your profile icon on the top right corner. When you click there, you will be able to check your details and update anything right there, and update all your details. Just a note, if you have an older Exordo account from different conferences or from different years, you should contact support, Exordo support, to merge your accounts into one, because otherwise you might be entering wrong account and you will not see your abstracts. So when you go to the dashboard, you will see choose your topics. This is a very, very, very important step, because without selecting the topics, you won't receive the abstract. System just will not allocate them to you. You should click the button, choose your abstracts, and choose as many topics of expertise as you wish. There will be written note, submitters must pick one, but this note applies only to those who submit their abstract, so you can pick up as much as you want. Then you click done, and you are ready now to start reviewing. This will mean that in the system, your status now is ready to review, and you will be allocated the abstracts. So this is it. This is the main thing you need to know, but you always, if you have any questions, you can always email me, and I'm happy to assist you. Juliana,
Thank you very much, Anna.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. I hope this was clear, and I'm welcoming any questions from you that you might have right now. And so we will be collecting them through the chat. And I will maybe conclude and share a few slides with you right now. Anna, would you mind stop sharing yours, please?
Yeah. Second. Yeah.
So I have a question in the chat asking, please again mention which link we should go first to.
Are you referring to the emails? You will receive an email invitation from Exordo, and there will be a link to either accept or to decline. So if you want to review the abstracts, you click accept. If you don't want after the webinar for any reason, if you don't want to be a reviewer, you click decline.
Okay, thank you. And what happens if the topic I want to review has already been taken?
They can't be taken. They you ask the system to allocate you the topics, the abstracts related to this topic. So the system will do this automatically. You can choose all the topics of your expertise that is relevant to you.
And participants are wondering, when will they receive such emails from Exordo?
You will probably receive them by Thursday afternoon, and we also will have the recorded version of this webinar ready by then.
Thank you, Anna. Anyone else?
I can see a question. Can I submit an abstract and still be a reviewer? Yes, you can. Absolutely. You can do both. And you will see it on your dashboard. As I explained, you just should go to the right card and see both your roles as a reviewer and as a submitter.
And we very much welcome this initiative.
It's probably worth just saying that when you get allocated your abstracts to review, that you won't be sent ones where you're a co-author, and it will be blinded to you. But just occasionally you get an abstract and you think, actually, I do know these people or are working with these people, and there is the facility then for you to decline that review, and you'll just be allocated some other things to review. So it's just probably worthwhile just making that clear that that's all managed within the reviewing system. So to try and eliminate as much as possible any conflicts or any bias.
Thank you, Catherine. And just maybe if there aren't any extra questions at this point, then maybe just to make it clear to the reviewers once again that if you are assigned an abstract that falls out of your specific area of expertise that you have indicated, please don't decline it immediately just for this reason alone. And we encourage you in such cases to remember your role is to assess the clarity and communication of the abstract. It's consider whether the abstract is clearly explaining its purpose, methods, and findings. So if it follows the logical structure, if it uses accessible language and can be clearly understood by an informed or non-specialist reader. So please think about this, and but of course you can still decline.
And just I'm sorry, I was just going to sort of reinforce that what you've just said, because actually I think I learn more from reviewing abstracts that are not necessarily precisely and exactly in the fields in which I have the most expertise, because you learn a huge amount about the clarity of the communication to a slightly less expert audience. And I think that's fantastic learning for people, not just for abstracts, but for writing papers, for writing grant applications. You're often writing it for the informed layperson, and actually reviewing abstracts that are not quite in your field, but you should be able to still understand. And if you can't understand them properly, then they're probably not a great abstract, but it is a fantastic learning experience for people.
Agree, I agree. There is another question. Will all individuals who expressed interest in serving as a reviewer will be appointed to this role?
Yes, everyone who signed the form, you will be contacted by Thursday.
All right. Well, thank you very much. If there aren't any further questions, I would like to remind you that a certificate of attendance is available for anyone who joined us today. There's a link in the chat that we're going to post right now, and it is also with the QR code that you can access it. You can download your certificate. When you get your certificate, please download this yourself and then fill in your name. So you have the link right now in the chat. And so, yeah, thank you for today's session. It is clear there's a great deal of interest. We're very pleased to have you with us as abstract reviewers and excited to see you as abstract submitters. So your submissions are very welcome. Just a reminder, authors can submit and edit their submission up to the deadline of 31st of October this year. And please visit our website, watch the recording of this and other webinars on our YouTube channel, join the membership database, and stay informed about all future EAPC events. And before wrapping up, I will maybe ask Catherine to share any final thoughts.
And I think that the final thought is just to really encourage people at this point in time to just go for it, to submit an abstract, to become a reviewer, to be part of that group of people, helping to make this, conference the best it possibly can be. We all have those skills to share, and you will learn a huge amount from doing it. So it's both a contribution, but also a fantastic learning experience. So please, I don't want anyone to go away thinking, I do not have the skills and expertise to be a reviewer. We all have to start somewhere. And because we allocate multiple reviewers to each abstract, that will be counterbalanced probably by people who have a great deal of expertise in reviewing as well. So, please don't be concerned about that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Again, thank you, Catherine, for sharing this exclusive knowledge with all of us. I thank you, our EAPC team who's here today. And of course, thank you all reviewers, all future EAPC reviewers for your participation. And as said, this webinar will be uploaded to the YouTube channel of EAPC, and I'm wishing you a great day.
Thank you.